Well, thanks for getting up early. It was not easy with the sun change. It's like, wait, winter is coming. Um, it's around the corner, right? So Gabrielle and I, we've been talking about a year. One of our members recommended you, Stacy Riley. So thank you for coming today. Let's tell everybody a little about you. So you're a distinguished leader in the realms of leadership development and human resources, ready to address one of our era's most pressing challenges, the labor shortage. In today's complex business landscape, retaining top talent has become a paramount concern for organizations worldwide. Gabriella not only offers a promising solution, but guides businesses on attracting and retaining the best employees for the long haul. She is more than an internationally renowned leadership speaker and a two-time author. You're a 12-time LinkedIn leading instructor and an award-winning consultant. Your expertise is sought after by industry giants like Google, Capital One, Microsoft, VMware, and Meredith Corporation. You actively train, consult, and coach some of the sharpest minds in leadership development. With a far-reaching impact, Gabriella has trained nearly 1 million individuals worldwide, both in person and through virtual platforms. Guys, help me in welcoming Gabriella Parente.
Thank you. Wow, thank you for the beautiful. Is that good? Okay.
It is.
It's working. Okay, great.
Uh-oh.
Do you need me to stand here for people we're broadcasting to?
You can stand wherever you want.
Okay.
I got a hand tilt Zoom camera.
Ooh, okay. I'll try to stay focused. Hi. Hello. That's okay. Do you want to do a quick intro so I know who you are and what business you do and all that?
Yes.
Good morning. Nice to meet you. Perfect. Wonderful. How many employees do you have? Just one. Most important one. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're going to start off with going back to 2021. If you all remember this, the world was slowly emerging from chaos in 2021. Companies everywhere were trying to figure out what the future of work would look like. For others, some of them were returning to the office, and other people really found ways to embrace that change in an unpredictable world. Enter Spotify. We all know Spotify, right? So they're a company known for their innovation and creativity in the music industry, but they also are a leader in how it views work itself. So as the world was grappling with remote work, Spotify decided to take a bold step forward, and they asked themselves a profound question. They said, what if we let our employees work from anywhere in the world? What would that look like? So they weren't looking for a temporary solution. They were reimagining how the world of work looks like in the future. So they introduced a work from anywhere policy, giving employees the freedom to choose if they wanted to work at home, office, in a coffee shop, and even in a different country. So everyone's sort of digital nomad and those sort of things. They just embraced it and they said, this is the future of work and we're gonna go with it. So it was very personal. They found that people not only were excited about this, they felt more engaged. Their employees felt more aligned with the company, and so they they really helped their employees out with that. And we'll get more into that. But they didn't stop there. They also understood the future of work isn't about just the location. It's also about leveraging technology to leverage technology to drive productivity and innovation. So they really leaned in heavily to AI. And I don't know how many of your companies right now are, obviously you have some digital marketing companies, so you definitely are, but who is using AI in their companies currently? Okay, cool. I would love to know how you do it. What about over here? Yeah? Okay. So they really leaned into this, and we'll talk more about the stats on this, but it really did free up their employees, because you can just get so much more productivity out of AI than you can having people do the mundane tasks that most people don't really enjoy. So they really found out that their employees, they could focus on what they do best, which is being strategic and creative. So it freed them up, and the results were astounding. they saw a huge surge in productivity and innovation from their team. So they felt more inspired. They could work from anywhere they wanted to. The flexibility allowed them to design their work days around their own lives, right? And I know that can't work with every company. I know you have a showroom we just talked about, and if you hire people, they probably need to be on site or maybe editing in the background. But it's just a great way to have a free benefit for people. And we'll talk more about that. So, and then AI took care of all the repetitive tasks, the creativity flourished, and they drove the company forward in ways they never thought they could. So we are on another brink of transformation, and we are standing here looking at Spotify to see where the world of work can go from here. So AI is just going to continue to be a huge part of our lives. Um, and also, we'll talk about generation gaps too in the presentation as well. But this is the future of work. Spotify has the opportunity to not only survive the change, but thrive in the change. So today, I'd really like you to think about how you can thrive during all the workplace changes that are happening and the generational gaps and everything like that that's going on. Who here wants to hire employees? Is that your goal for the people who, okay, you do. Yes, you want to hire more people? Okay. So by 2025, an estimated 32.6 million Americans, about 22% of the workforce, will be working remotely. So it reflects a gradual change towards remote work. But here's the caveat: 98% of workers express a desire to work remotely. Okay, they really appreciate the flexibility and the work-life balance. So we have 22% of companies actually doing it, but 98% of employees want that. So huge gap. I see that as a huge opportunity to really get the best talent to come in the door. If you can think about today, like reimagining how you do some of your tasks, and if your employees or your contractors can do that remotely. Come on in.
Are you still on the first slide?
Yeah, I am. Thank you, Anthony. There are some caveats and some things that people talk about. You know, I know there's a huge debate out. It's died down a little bit, but it's still out there. Using something called social exchange theory, it suggests that employees respond to employers letting them work from home, and they actually exert more effort, which is great, right? But it has the potential to have a big burnout for them. So they really want to try to like give back to that company, and they work even harder and harder and harder. And but then the employer gives them more and more work because they're working harder because they're working from home. So that can be an issue within your company. So something to keep in mind there. Because like I said, only 22% of companies are doing it. So employees are seeking out these companies that will let them do it. And then they want to give back so much. And who's heard this out? It's kind of an outdated belief, but who's heard this, that when you work from home that you're less productive? Or you've heard that theory, right? Okay. I don't know whether you believe that or not, but the research does show that it's actually the opposite. They do work harder. There's no real lack of productivity. Now, is there lack of other things? Yes. There's lack of managerial supervision, especially for new hires and for young folks. I coach a company, I do HR consulting for a digital marketing company, and they hire a lot of new hires out of college. And that is difficult to have a new hire who's 21 years old and doesn't just learning for the very first time how to be a professional, and they can only do it on Zoom. So that is challenging. So they've hired me to coach her along the way, which those things definitely help, because you don't have people to just be like, hey, can we go to happy hour and talk about like how this place actually works? They just don't have that. They're all around the country. So there's a few couple issues there, and I'm sure you might have your own feelings about it. Who has hired remote employees? I know my digital people have. Okay. 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 And what about you? You raise your hand too?
Yeah.
How many of yours are remote?
I'd say like 5 of them overseas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll take a little step back And I want to ask you a question. Why do you think people leave companies? What is the number one reason why people leave companies? Yeah, no advancement opportunities. Yeah, they don't feel appreciated. Okay.
They want to work remote.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. What else? Poor leadership. Yeah, and I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop you right there because what's her name? Amanda. You are absolutely right. Yeah, and that is what most of the research is telling us, that people do not leave companies, they leave their manager. Okay, so the person they have the most direct contact with every single day, typically that's their manager, their frontline manager. It's always the manager. So your managers are so important to your organization, and maybe you are that manager, right? But if you don't have a good relationship with them, you know, that's why they're leaving companies. That's why we're seeing that, because they have the most impact day to day on that person, right? And how many managers are really trained in how to be a good manager? Very few. It's literally my whole business. So I train managers. So there's a huge opportunity here, but it just doesn't happen for some reason. So one study found that nearly half of their employees surveyed had quit because of a bad manager, and almost two-thirds believe that their manager lacked proper training. Okay. And then Gallup did a study that determined millions of people, decades of research, that 70% of the variance in team engagement is solely determined by that manager. So that frontline worker could be you, could be the CEO, could be someone that you hired. And if you all could probably think of some manager that you may have had that may have not treated you right. I know we all have stories like that, right? I do another presentation. It's called I Quit. And we start with the reason why people leave companies, and we don't have time for my story today on that, but another day. So you can have the most interesting company in the world. You can have the greatest company culture and engagement, but still, at the end of the day, they leave managers. So how many of your companies have done managerial training? Do you have managers? You are the manager. Do you have do you have other managers? Okay. Do you do training?
We do not.
I'm not calling you out. I'm
No,
just
no,
trying to understand.
I've been trained from another company to be a manager.
Yeah.
I've been a manager for many companies, but my specific company was not doing it.
Okay. Okay. What about you guys? You have bigger companies.
I was at a company.
At another company. So you're not doing it at your current one? Okay. What about you guys?
I got managerial training from my first company.
Okay. So at least you guys are getting something. That's good. And everyone thinks, no one said it in this room, but usually everyone thinks it's pay, right? Pay, how much you pay people. And that, of course, is important, right? People wouldn't work if they didn't need the money. But it's actually, all the studies show that they care more about how they're treated. Okay. And then when we train people, we don't train people in empathy, motivational psychology. We don't role play role play on managerial problems. So a lot of the training that you may have received may not be sufficient for what you're actually dealing with in the real world. Any thoughts or questions on that? So there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of, poor communication, lack of recognition. Someone mentioned that, bullying, harassment, all those sort of things. And that is really characterized by heavy amounts of stress for that employee. And I'm going to get to a slide here shortly that talks about how stressed your workforce actually is right now, in terms of what they're going through. We all know we just all went through COVID, right? So we're kind of getting out of that, but now we have like rapid inflation, especially in Colorado. So it's very, very difficult. Most of your employees are probably Colorado, except for the overseas folks, mostly Colorado. Okay. So interestingly enough, Colorado actually has one of the highest amounts of like workplace stress. And Colorado has the highest divorce rate in the country too. So your workers are pretty stressed. Does anyone have any guesses why the divorce rate would be so high in our beautiful state? You would think everyone would be happy, but
there being too much demand on him to work. He's a foreman.
Yeah.
In an electrical company.
Yeah.
I think
He's
they want to work every weekend. It's like,
mm-hmm.
it's exhausting for him. And then I don't get a break from our children or
Yeah.
anything like that. And we don't get to spend time with them. So that's
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great example. And that kind of plays into the number one reason, but it's lack of family support, because there's not a lot of people from Colorado. I don't know who's from Colorado here. Oh, there's a lot today. Okay, never mind. There's a lot. Usually there's nobody, or one or two. But what happens is we had this huge influx of business, right? And that's how I moved here. It was my ex-husband got a job in Colorado. I'm not from here. And that's the story of a lot of people, is that they've moved here for a job, or their spouse got a job here. We were living in Florida at the time. So we moved out here 10 years ago. The economy was great. You could buy a house for like 400,000, 300,000, 400,000. Now, as you know, that's almost, in some places, almost doubled. And then inflation's just gone through the roof. And also you have no family to help you because you're not from here, right? So we moved all these people here for work, but we don't have anything set up for them. So they're just operating in their own little families instead of like a community. And so that's leading to one of the highest divorce rates in the country. So I'm sorry?
When is that from?
Last year, 2023. Yeah.
What's the source?
I can get it for you.
It says it's Nevada currently, and then the next is Louisiana.
People go there and they establish residency just so they can get a
Because I would just check that.
I can get you the source after this for sure. Okay, thank you. So that's just to give you a little bit of background about what your employees are kind of going through right now. If they're in Colorado, everyone's a little stressed. And we just had a great conversation too about how employees are asking for a lot, but not wanting to give a lot back. So that is true. We have a lot of different generations in the workforce right now. Baby boomers are retiring, and we have a lot of younger folks in the workplace who don't have that sort of training and that the same sort of work ethic needed for the institutions that we've created with the baby boomers, right? So we are in a really interesting situation right now at work. So to identify.
A little bit about the culture. I mean, a lot of it being institutionalized as far as the way they treat their employees.
Yeah, well, after the Industrial Revolution, we created big companies and big corporations, right? And so that was mostly meant for men who had wives at home to take care of the children. Now we see, just as many women in the workforce as men. However, they're having only 8% of the leadership of the population of leaders. So there's a big gap there, and we'll talk about that as well. But it was set up in a different time, right? So working 8 to 10 hours a day, working weekends, going to these events on the weekends. It's all set up from this perspective that, like a 1950s perspective, where a lot of people were married with children and the wife stayed home, right? Not a lot of women at that time were going out and working, not like how it is today. So we've set it up in a different way, but then we have different folks in the workforce. All different generations now, men, women, everybody. So, a few ways that you can identify if your workplace is toxic. So, here's a couple signs if you think if you might have a little bit of toxicity. So, the behavior of your colleagues, okay, um, and your superiors, are they consistently rude, disrespectful, or overly competitive? You see a lot of that, a lot of competition and people backbiting each other to get to the top. Has anyone ever seen that? You don't have to talk about your current companies, but has anyone seen that maybe in your past company or yeah? Any want to share anything?
Yeah, I worked for a big publisher at one point and got a big promotion
Mm-hmm.
as national sales manager. So I had to go to Texas and meet guys from the other company.
Mm-hmm.
My boss, my ex-boss, he's just like, you better watch your back. They're gonna go after you because you're from Condé Nast and they're from Hearst,
Mm.
and they did. Because I took this job that they wanted or something. I just left. The internet came around. Who wanted to be in publishing anyway?
Right?
Yeah. But
Very interesting.
It was weird.
Super
I've never thought of
competitive.
that,
Yeah. And also that's how we institutionalize how we've set it up too, right? If you work really hard, you can make it, you can do anything in this world, in this life. And especially when you're new and you're starting off and you're trying to make a name for yourself, we've almost created that competitiveness in a lot of ways. So you mentioned you experienced that too.
Yeah, I used to work in food service.
Okay.
I worked for a 5-star restaurant, and it's funny, when I started there, the head chef, he's one of the best bosses still to this day that I've ever had. And then he got promoted to regional chef for the company, and then the sous chef was promoted to executive chef for that restaurant. And he was the worst I've ever had. And he's the reason why I quit that company.
Mhm.
He would, if something didn't go right during service, he basically like choose one of us on the line as like his punching bag. He'd
Wow.
bring us to the walk-in cooler, literally like
Jeez.
shut the door with us in there and just scream at us and berate us and then send
Wow.
us home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, straight up abusive, beyond toxic.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We don't need that is beyond toxic.
Yeah.
Like that is a different level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
You reminded me too of one of my a job in college and the head chef I was serving and it was rough.
Yeah.
He was rough.
The egos on chefs
Mhm.
it's like baffling. You make food for a living. You're not like a rocket scientist. Like
You're not at NASA. Okay.
Anyway.
Uh, so yeah, competition between peers can benefit organizations, but too much rivalry isn't healthy. And then you move into a toxic work environment. So just a few signs to see if your employees are consistently rude and kind of giving you a hard time and saying, no, I don't want to do that. I don't, stuff like that. When you're starting to hear that over and over again by people, you have to look at the culture. And culture is not necessarily the easiest thing to fix, but it can be fixed through changes and initiatives. And things like what we're doing today. So, what if I told you that there was a way to bring down your employee disengagement down to 1%? Would you do it? So, if a manager primarily focuses on an employee's strengths rather than their weaknesses, the likelihood that that employee will be actively disengaged is 1%. So we can bring it down to just 1% if we focus on someone's strengths. And I recently had the opportunity to put together this program for Google and Apple, and we talked about all of our strengths. So my question to you is, do you know your own strengths? Do you know your team's strengths? Maybe. So and the stats are from Gallup, and it's very well. There was a survey done with 500,000 folks all around the world in different industries, all different age groups, and they were trying to figure out what engages employees. What is the thing that makes people happy at work? Like it's just like such a thing. You just can't figure it out, right? And they did all these studies, and they came up with there's one thing. If they are able to do what they are naturally gifted at while they are at work. They are 6 times more likely, this is from Gallup, 6 times more likely to be engaged on the job and 3 times more likely to have a higher quality of life if they're just able to do what they're naturally gifted at. And so these are the very same concepts that I do use with top executives at Google and Apple and Capital One as well. Yeah. That's the one that I'm certified in and I use the most. There are some others that are out there, but yes, Gallup Strength Finders is the one. It's called Clifton. They just renamed it to Clifton's. Yeah, have you taken it? Oh, you just took it today. Oh, too funny. Well, we're going to talk all about that. Has anyone ever taken Strength Finders or heard of it? No? What I love most about it is, okay, you're going to be engaged. You're 6 times more likely to be engaged, but you're 3 times happier at home just because you're using what you're good at. And I'm going to talk about that in just a moment here. Okay. Who has kids here? I have kids. Okay. Have your kids or yourself ever brought home a report card that may have looked something like this, where there's like a D or an F or something like that? Oh, your kids never came home with that. Oh, you got smart kids. Okay. Anyone? Have you? Okay. Yeah. What did your parents say when you brought home a D or an F?
They just focus on the F and the D.
Yeah.
They don't focus on the positive.
What did your parents say?
They said you should just focus on getting C's and trouble.
They said be a C student.
They said be a C student.
Okay.
I'm gonna be pregnant or go to jail.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to use that next time. That's yeah.
My sisters, they were more.
Don't get anyone pregnant. And what was the second one? Don't go to jail. After they saw the D's and F's. That's rich. Okay, in that same conversation, did you have any A's or B's?
Yes.
Okay, what were those in?
Those were usually in like Spanish and literature.
Okay, literature.
Yeah.
Okay, and did they say anything about that?
Yeah, they were good about being objective.
Okay.
My parents were pretty good about that.
Okay, very cool. Most of the time when we bring home things like this, you or your kids or someone that you know, most of the time the answers are something a little nicer than maybe what they said, but like get a tutor. Get a tutor, or in this case, my parents would have said something really mean too. Like you're grounded or taking away something, but they would have been pretty mad about those F's and those D's. And they would really focus hard on getting those D's and F's at least up to a C, which is funny because that's what parents want to do sometimes. But no one typically focuses on those A's and B's, right? Or even a C, because we're so worried about fixing our weaknesses. And this is what happens in corporations all the time. You get performance reviews, and I don't know about you, but mostly performance reviews are, what did you do wrong? And how can you fix it for the next year? And so it's just your grade school coming right back at you in the workplace. And so we do this over and over and over. Now, granted, I've been in HR for 20 years. This is why I started my own business, so I can help change this for folks. So we can start focusing on the positive and get these amazing benefits out of it. So yeah, when you're at work, you hear what you didn't do right and how you can fix it for next year. And then we're going to look at that. We're going to look at that. And then maybe you might get yeah, you did pretty good in that. Like, yeah, I guess you're good with clients or whatnot. But what they found doing this is that if you focused on those A's and B's, whatever it was, if it was gym, that's fine. Like you're athletic, your mind works, you were a boy. I have a son and I understand how physical they are. Focusing on those things, you're going to have so much more success in life if you do focus on those A's, what you did get the A in. And if you start focusing on the D's and the F's, you're probably only going to get to mediocre. You're only going to probably get to a C level. Okay. And this is studied in research because when you focus all your time on your weaknesses, it's not what you're really great at. Now, we know we have to pass and we have to get through life and we all have to do math and we all have to do things we don't want to do. And yes, we can get a tutor and bring it up to a C, but C doesn't get you success in life, right? Like C's don't get you high functioning, well-run companies and, inventions and all the things, right? C's don't do that, but your A's do. And those are probably what you are naturally gifted at. And it just came very, very easy to. So the most successful people in life, the most successful leaders, all they're doing is focusing on what they're good at and running with it. Okay. And if you can look in your own lives and, you hear people on TV and celebrities and things like that and musicians, they went with what they're good at. They didn't focus on, I'm going to fix my F and my D. They might have got it to a C, but they didn't spend all their time on it.
They're made up of people who specialize in one position.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's not a team full of people that can play any position okay,
Right.
efficiently. It's people that excel in their one position.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. But do we do that in companies? Has anyone ever seen that at a company? Typically not. So we're making people do everything and expect everyone to be good at that, right? And then we rank them and then we try to make them compete against each other, right? So you can kind of see where the toxicity starts from. Okay, my mom always said, if you can't say anything nice, just don't say anything at all, right? We've all heard this when we were kiddos. So we've heard that a lot too in our workplaces as well. Why am I even here? What am I doing?
I mean, I guess, so we do less and less performance reviews, although I guess you're supposed to do more for metrics, but
There's a way to do it. There's a way to do it. And so when I consult with companies, we do performance reviews based on strengths. We do one-on-ones with your top 5 strengths right at the top, Clifton strengths right at the top. So, and everyone's trained on it. Everyone knows it's common language and all of the strengths are positive. There's nothing negative about it. So it's a very positive language that we can use to describe each other rather than like, oh, so-and-so never gets back to me on time. So-and-so shows up to the meeting 2 minutes late, right? Like those little things, we kind of turn it around and we think about what are the positive traits, right? And so there's 34 in this particular thing that Strength Finders is what I use for companies. So there's 34. There's 34 strengths that we all have, and then we rank them. I think this does work where you start off with something really positive that they're doing. Then you go into maybe what they need to work on to get to that C level. And if I were you, I would see what they're really, really good at and put them in that role. Move them, right? Train them on how to be more of that. If they're really good with sales, like they're just so good with customers and they're on that showroom and they're just shining, don't make them do the admin stuff in the back too much. Don't make them do spreadsheets and all the other things that they really probably are going to be a C at. They're going to be mediocre at anyways. And there's some things you have to do in companies, but that you don't want to do, of course. We all have to do that. But how can you transition their work so you can get the most out of them and then make them happier in the process? Okay. So focus on what we're most naturally gifted at and experience the most success in life. Do you know what your strengths are? Do you remember what they are today? Adaptability. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's a sign today. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, there's 34. There's 34. Yeah, and so we do focus on the top 5 because it gives you so much benefit, but achiever could be 6 or 7, and it's they're interesting. Every person is so different. It's how you manifest it too. What life experiences that you've had will change. It is so cool. I literally love doing this. There is a charge. I think it's like, I don't know, $25 or something. Um, I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Sorry. hmm Yeah, and this is there's a bigger test. We can get all the whole 34 in order to kind of see. And so this is the exact program that I did with Capital One. Um, and so we looked at her team because she had a great team at Capital One. I think it was the UX team, I believe. And they were doing really well, but she wanted to see how she could make them even greater and better and have more engagement. And so we did this exact thing with her team. We went in, I gave everyone a Strength Finders test, gave them the book, gave them the reading materials, and then we had a full day session on what do each of those strengths mean, how it worked for you, because you and I can both have achiever, but your life experiences are always going to be different than mine, right? And so we talk about how that manifests for you and how it manifests for me. And so we worked together as a team, and then we came up with her goals for her team, and then we took those strengths and we made the strengths go straight to the goals. So I try to. I try to. It depends on the client and what their budget is. Sometimes clients are like, no, we just want one day training. But I don't recommend that because you have to keep following up. You know, when I first was introduced, yeah, yeah, because it can just stay on the shelf. How many trainings have you been to where it just stays on the shelf, right? And so today I'm going to give you my contact information so we can touch base afterwards if you want to. And I have access to send this to your whole team if you'd like at a very reduced cost as well. So we can talk about that afterwards if you want. Same with today. If you just go home and you forget about it and you don't follow back up, you're not going to get a lot out of it. So when I was introduced to this, it was about 10 years ago when I first moved to Colorado, and I took the test and I worked for a big consulting company, and then they were charging a lot of money to do this. And I was like, this is so cool. My background's in psychology. I want to learn more about this. And I did the assessment, and my number one strength was empathy. And we talk a lot about empathy now, but 10 years ago, we didn't. Empathy was not a common word that we talked about. So I was like, what the heck is that? And how is this a strength that I care too much about people? You know, and so I was like, this is what's got me in trouble in my life, you know, and I think about all those times and being in HR for 20 years, I was like, okay, well, caring too much is really difficult when you have to let somebody go, or if you have to give a performance review and it's negative. Like I just thought as a detriment. But then I started learning about what empathy really means and understanding that it's actually the ability to understand what someone's thinking and feeling without them to say the word at all. So right now, I'm actually feeling all of their energy. uh, but it taught me how to really like focus that in a really healthy and positive way rather than getting upset when people would be mad or toxic. Like I took that on, but then I figured out through work, through lots and lots of follow-ups and lots of mentors and things like that, how to use my strengths to my advantage. And I use them all the time now. So really, it's the ultimate diversity. I think of it as ultimate diversity in how we think, how we talk, and how we feel. So we're going to move on real quick. I want to give you some stats of relief. I know we've done it 9:25, right? So real quick, we'll spend the last 5 minutes on this. So as we talk about the future of work, again, we have 64% of people who say they are struggling with having the time and energy to do their jobs. Okay, this is an upward trend we're seeing past COVID. Like I said, employees are very stressed. These are stats from Microsoft, and so which I think is interesting because they publish this. But employees are experiencing 3 times the amount of time spent on Microsoft Teams than they did in 2020. So 3 times more meetings than they had in 2020. So that's a lot. And we're calling this digital debt, or they come up with this term digital debt. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. 70% of people said they would love to use AI to delegate more stuff off. Last year, if you would have asked people this, they would have said, I'm scared of AI. It's going to take my job. I won't have a job anymore. Now people are coming around saying, Sure, let me get rid of those mundane spreadsheets and things like that people don't like. And then two times more managers are likely to say that AI will provide value and boost productivity rather than cutting headcount. They'd rather produce productivity rather than cut headcount. So most managers really don't want to get rid of people. It's one of the most awful things you have to do as a manager is let somebody go. Okay. So digital debt. This is the term that they came up with, Microsoft. 64% of people have struggled with finding time and energy to get their work done, and they're 3.5 times more likely to say they struggle with innovation. And so what does that mean? It's this. It's constant barrage of messages and WhatsApp and Teams meeting and Zoom meetings and all the things that you're supposed to do per day. What happens is you're not really that productive at the end of the day because you are having to consume so much information all day long and you're just torn in all these different directions. You've got Slack up on your computer, you've got WhatsApp, you've got this, you got that. And then you're having 3 times more meetings. Most meetings could probably be replaced with a 10-minute or 5-minute check-in or maybe even an email. So my suggestion is if you are a meeting heavy company, consider if any of them can be done via email. Just can we update each other on this? Can we have 5-minute check-ins rather than a full hour or a full half an hour when you had to go through everyone's day and 2 people are chatting and you're not even involved in that conversation? Can we get rid of some of those and help your people? So what happens is you can't be creative and innovative, and you have to be. Our economy, the U.S. economy, is based on creativity and innovation, right? Some of you, all of you know, because you all created companies, right? So that's what we're good at here in the US is our innovation and creativity. And so when you are showing stats like this from Microsoft, that 3.5 times more likely they are struggling with innovation right now. That's what our entire economy is built on. What we can come up with, what can we invent, what can we do faster and better? But they can't do it right now. So a little stressed. And so also every employee does need some AI training. If you're not doing that, is anyone doing AI training or using AI in your company? Okay. So they all need aptitude training, maybe even if you're not using it, because it's a skill that they're going to need for the next job. And so you want to make your employees better when they leave your company, right? Rather than making them worse. So LinkedIn is saying that mentioning GPT is up 79% year over year. So those are the job postings right now. 79% more. Okay, we're going to skip a few here, and we can talk more after this, and I can send you the slides if you'd like. But I do want to get you out of here on time. Okay, so real quick, if you take out your phone, just do this little quick survey for me. Also, you'll get my contact information. I'll get yours. You can let me know if you can use some more training in your company or consulting or anything, or you want to talk more about this. This is how you get a hold of me. So this will just take you like 30 seconds. I never like to go over my time. I like to be on time, so I want to get you guys out of here. Did everyone get that code? Okay, I'm going to switch over to another slide while you guys are doing that. Excuse me. Sorry, Anthony, that was loud. Okay, while you're doing that, you can take a screenshot of this too. The workforce is becoming more diverse. Of course, we want it to be more diverse. We need diverse thought. That's what we do Strength Finders, is to have diversity in our thoughts and our practices. These are 10 places right now that you can recruit from to hire more diverse folks. Okay, if you'd like that, take a screenshot of that. All right, and then when, to finalize our conversation today, remember that the little things are the big deal in your company. When we talk about toxicity and things like that, we want to really promote a positive workforce. So people say, well, how can I improve my work culture? And, I want some easy steps. It's the little things. It's asking people, how's your daughter doing in college? How's your son doing in school? I knew you just went through a really difficult surgery. How can I make work better for you? And I open up my conversations with managers, with employees, with what can I do today? What can I do this week? What can I do this month to make the job better for you? And when you go in with that mindset and that attitude, you will learn everything you need to know about somebody. They probably will tell you, and they'll be like, whoa, they really just say that? And do you think they'd be loyal to you after it being turned around instead of how bad they are at things? It's what can I do for you to make your job easier? You'll hear if they need training, you'll hear if they need mentoring. Those are things you can all do for them to make them successful. And take a screenshot of this too. Here's just some quick things that you can do, and we can talk more about these as well, depending on your company and your budget and everything like that. If you do give them like a gift card or a little bonus or something, make sure you just don't direct deposit it in their account. Hand them a check, like actually give them a check and send it to them in the mail, or actually give them a physical gift card so you can see something and feel it, rather than just like you deposited $100 into my account, which is great. People like that, but let them hold it. Let it be tangible, right? Okay.
Then we gave them a real check and they go, what? We have to go to the bank.
Oh, geez.
They were like, it wasn't directly deposited, we did it for Christmas bonuses and put it in envelopes. I said, this is a real check. And you're like, oh my God.
I guess you should just
So I guess you have like,
give them a note and it says we made a deposit.
it's not the same though.
Yeah, most people like to feel it, especially with gift cards. Then you can take that and do whatever you want with it. Most of the time, even though they're complaining, yeah, even though they're complaining, honestly, they probably appreciated it. People like to complain. It's just a thing we do. Humans do it.
We gave them one year we did turkeys and then we had to have one. Like, oh my God, I did more groceries. We're gonna make it easier.
Here's what, yeah.
And then the next year, I could do that. What do you propose? I don't care.
Mhm.
What?
Mhm. Yeah. You can't make everyone happy, and people will complain at first. But here's what I say about if you're a manager or a leader, when that person goes home, when your employees go home at the end of the day, and they have dinner with whoever they have dinner with, maybe it's their dog, their cat, their spouse, their kids, whoever they have dinner with that night, you, as the leader, are probably on the very tip of their tongue. That you're the thing that they, how was your day? How was your day? Well, so and so, what's your name, Alex? Sorry to pick on you. Already went there. Alex said this and this and this and this to me. So you are the topic of conversation at night, just so you know. So it's a heavy responsibility. It's heavy. And even though they complain, they're talking to their family about, they got me a turkey. They got me a turkey. I didn't have to go to the store. And it's what people say about your company in those conversations that really matter. That's a blessing that you get to have that impact on people. So keep doing your turkeys or gift cards or whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Back to Liz. So thank you.
Great, Gabriella. I just have